A Purr Podcast, the best podcast for feline medicine and surgery with tips, tricks, and updates for the entire veterinary healthcare team. Dr. Susan Little is a feline medicine specialist with 2 cat-only hospitals in Ottawa, Canada. She is best known as an international speaker and as the author and editor of 2 textbooks. Dr. Jolle Kerpenstein is a diplomate of the American and European College of Veterinary Surgeons and a big cat fan.
Hello. No, start. I'm sorry. You did it again. You did it again.
This is Dr. Jolle Kerpenstein. This is the Purr Podcast with the amazing Dr. Susan Little.
Who has no words.
Messed it up again, as per usual.
Because you deliberately choose your moment when
Oh.
you know I'm not ready.
I warned you. I said, let's start, and then I
Okay.
counted down.
And
Okay,
then within
I
2 seconds,
might have counted down a little bad.
Yola, that's not enough prep time. I need a little
too
bit of prep time.
We have an amazing guest today.
I think he should do the intro now, Rick.
No, he
I'm
did
over
the last
it.
time, remember?
I did.
He did.
I did.
So, for next
Okay.
week's.
Welcome to
next
Purr
week-
Podcast.
Yeah, no, next week.
Your
Next week
voice
you
is
do-
better anyway.
Yeah.
so-
Oh, maybe he should do the intro. We have the amazing. That's you.
Eric Garcia.
Yeah.
That's me, guys.
And Eric Garcia is a repeat offender.
I am. This is my 3rd time.
I think third.
Yeah.
Third
yeah.
time. Oh. So we're so happy that you're back. You have done so many lectures here. I can't even start, but the topic that I want to talk about.
Yes, let's do it.
And that has nothing to do with Dr. Susan because she has no clue about this.
However, Dr.
Veterinary
Susan
medicine.
wants to point out one thing. So for those who are listening or watching, we are recording this at VMX
Right.
in
But we're-
2025.
But we are going to send this out way later.
We will,
Also,
but I just
so-
want to give context
Right.
as to why Eric's been how many lectures did you do?
6, I think, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
That's
a-
crazy.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a heavy
No.
one, yeah.
Juicing. Man.
Juicing.
Sorry.
And so did you give a lecture about bees or not?
No, I wish I did.
About bees?
Okay, so-
I'm a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Go
we're going to-
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
true.
stop.
I
Yeah,
swear to
true.
God.
So we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
And so I know you did a lecture about that here. And I want to do a deep dive with you.
Yep.
To AI leap.
It's
Us.
TI,
ABI.
ABI.
Oh, for
What topic would you like to talk
Mm.
about?
AI.
No, you already know. You have no idea about that, but anything else that you would like?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I use AI. My son
Let's all come together. Let's all come together.
My son.
has an AI job.
Okay,
I
that's
know that.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
everybody does though.
Yep.
It's AI.
No more questions than that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Does he have bees too?
Yeah,
No,
he should.
They wouldn't do well in Canada, but you could.
Oh, there's.
You
I
can
think
keep
there's.
bees where I
Yeah,
live.
yeah, yeah. But they could die though. You have to like really wrap them around.
If you're driving to Nova
Yeah.
Scotia like I do, you cannot bring bees across the border
Yeah.
into Nova Scotia. There's like ginormous signs that say don't bring bees
Yeah.
and
Why not?
diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, so they don't fly over the border.
Well,
What would happen if you have a hive on the border?
yeah,
They
that'd be
fly.
tough.
Would
to
they
the
be
other
American
side.
bees
Oh
or
no, they say
Canadian bees?
okay, that's a
That'd be tough.
Canadian flower. We're not allowed to go there.
That'd be tough.
Gotta turn the other way.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Which
AI.
one would you like to start?
AI is perfect.
AI. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
So, you think DeepSeek is going to change the world?
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the problem with DeepSeek right now is even though it's more expensive, they're not being very transparent on how they're training their model.
Can I ask first what the heck
Oh.
DeepSeek is?
I love you all.
Start there.
Let's just jump right in.
I know,
DeepSeek,
you know.
what do you think?
For those of us who
Right.
don't have that phrase in our daily lives, what's DeepSeek?
DeepSeek is an AI platform or an
I gathered it was
Yeah.
AI. Yeah.
So it's essentially competing with ChatGPT. Are you familiar with that?
Oh.
Yeah.
I use ChatGPT.
Yeah, so it's essentially competing with ChatGPT. But what they're saying with it is that it's not really, they're not being very transparent with how they're training it. So with AI, you should feel comfortable to be able to ask it how it's coming to its conclusions when you're asking it, when you're prompting it, whether it's medical based or
Mhm.
just an everyday task.
Mhm.
And then having confidence in just how much information it's learned from to be able to come to that conclusion. And so they haven't.
Okay.
Really
I'm
been
going to
clear
be
about-
devil's advocate
Yeah,
a little
please,
bit here
of course.
because I think the story of DeepSeek is so we spent hundreds of millions of dollars on the new element of the new programs.
Mhm.
You don't mean us
ChatGPT,
personally, you
uh,
mean,
the company, so Google and Amazon and
Right.
ChatGPT.
that all have
They
their
have
own.
spent so much money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then there is the rumor
Mhm.
that DeepSeek came from a Chinese professor
Mhm.
that got the most bright minds of China together.
Mhm.
Okay.
And for $5 million, they did the same thing.
Okay,
And then they tested it versus the other models.
Okay.
And it did almost as good, or
Yeah.
in some cases.
Okay.
better. So obviously, the story is, and then suddenly we had a major crash on,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
everywhere because everybody was
So
worried about
popular.
because people invested a lot in ChatGPT and the chips and whatever. So if it is really true that it's as potent and
Sure.
as good,
Yeah.
and the other thing that they do is they put the algorithm open,
Mhm.
so we
Anyone.
know what the algorithm is,
Mhm.
and of the other companies. I like to ask Eric because Eric puts a lot. I mean, you did an AI lesson here for how you can use it in the
Mhm.
profession, and for me, AI is or has already changed my life completely.
How do you use it?
I use it all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
that's
So
not a good answer. That's a very
So,
vague
no, no,
answer, it
and
suggests evasion
with no
and
with
unfamiliarity with the topic, just saying.
well, she's useful, huh? Right, right. So
Can you give us an example?
okay,
Before
if you
Eric
um,
completely disappears in an Give an example.
if you would let me speak, maybe I could come with an example. That if Susan asks me a question, I can go to ChatGPT, put the question in and get an answer.
Mhm.
If I write a letter, I put it in ChatGPT and have it written. So one thing that I feel that I have a problem with having an imposter here is that my English is really, really good, but it's not good enough.
Sure.
So what I do with anything that I write,
Yeah.
I put it in there to see if there's any,
Smart.
how do you call Oxford commas
Sure, yeah.
wrong and that sort of
It's an
shit.
Oxford comma.
And whatever, I most make fun of it.
It's an Oxford comma.
Yeah, because I
Don't
get
want
Like it's
those,
medical.
I,
It's an
I get
Oxford-
colonic cramps when you say that.
Colonic
So for my
cramps, yeah.
work, we have a program that is behind a firewall, so anything, it cannot go outside. What we could do is take all our podcasts, put it in all the text of our podcast, of
Okay.
208 podcasts, put it in this system,
Yeah,
and then we can ask it any question about cats, for instance. And then it will pull from that pool of podcasts that we have, and you get the
we
answer.
don't need to write a textbook ever again then, apparently.
I think in the future, there's a lot of things that you don't need to do anymore.
Huh.
A lot of what they say is, I should interview myself. What they say is,
We'll interview him.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
what they say
Yeah,
is
yes.
that a lot of the repetitive tasks that you have that are really boring
Yeah.
can be fixed by AI. So now
But on your point though, with I don't need to write a textbook because this is a real thing. I disagree with that because AI only knows what's already known.
Right.
So if it's not known, it's the same like when you use it for marketing or creativity, you're not getting unique original ideas, you're just getting
that's
things that are
good.
already
Right,
out there. You're
right.
getting it in masses, right?
Exactly, okay.
But
Yes, so it
so
doesn't create anything.
Although it's supposed to in the future. I mean, in the future, they
potentially, yeah.
think that because it already can add things to what you're saying. So you say, okay, I want to talk about fleas and cats, and this is my broad outline. Can you add to this piece about fleas and
but
cats?
It-
And it
it-
just pulls information and puts it there, while you might not have thought about putting it.
Yeah, but it's not creating anything, like it didn't create the knowledge, in other
Right,
words.
correct.
It just
No,
went
the
and
research,
found
yeah.
it.
No, it's all free in the, it
Yeah.
just scours the web.
Yeah,
to find-
yeah.
That's also immediately the risk, because that also means anything that you put in these open
Mhm.
systems is open for everyone.
Mhm.
So if you have any proprietary material, so Eric wants to write a book and he
Mhm.
uses one of those systems for writing that book,
Right,
that is, not his property anymore.
Yeah.
His intellectual property is gone.
Yeah.
So that is the risk a
There's a
little bit, right?
Big debate
Okay.
about that among authors, yeah.
yeah, okay.
And the debate is also that authors have not given permission for these systems to
Correct.
use their material.
That's it, yep.
Yeah, so you
that's
don't
another
think of
risk.
cat.
No, but it's there.
It is there. If there's anything that is published from your book on the internet, it is there.
Yeah. One of the most common ways that I would say is veterinarians are using it for scribes.
Mhm.
So, and I do want to quickly differentiate a scribe versus a dictation system. Dictation system is just taking what you say word for word and it's
Right.
writing it out. And that's what a lot of veterinarians used for a little while to help produce
Yep.
medical records without having to type them.
Yep.
An AI scribe is essentially taking the words that you're saying and it's starting to do something with it, in which this case it would start to build
Like
your
a
soap
soap
note,
note.
even advanced far beyond that, which we'll talk about in a second. So having it produce those medical notes for you, dramatically saving time,
Mhm.
giving you more time in the exam room with the owner.
Mhm.
The second thing, though, now is that with a lot of systems, if say you received medical records from another veterinarian,
Oh, yes.
say it's a 13-year-old cat,
Yeah.
it's got a lot of history,
Yeah, you
right?
get 100 PDF pages.
Exactly. So what you could do is you can actually upload that into the AI veterinary scribes,
Ah,
and
it will summarize it?
exactly. So you can have it summarized, you can ping it at
Yeah.
any time. So you could say, has this cat had any history of diabetes, or
Yeah.
has it had any history of any particular disease? So instead of having to go through 120 pages of medical records, you can always ping that as well. Usually what I tell veterinarians is ping it when you're in the exam room and you maybe need to see if there's something medically relevant in that moment.
Quickly, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
but you always have it there. So
Hmm.
it's an easy thing vets can do. They said the studies say it saves 2 hours of time.
Yeah,
It's a
even-
profession right now where everyone's just burned out and tired. Be
It-
nice to leave on time.
Right.
Yeah, but the more tired and burnt out you are, the harder it is to accept a new thing, right? It's a conundrum,
sure.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Like I mean, I see that amongst our team members
Yeah.
too. I may be convinced whatever the plan is
Sure.
will, in the end of the day, save you time, but it still takes input of some effort.
Absolutely.
Right?
To some extent, though, I will say it's of all technology tools, like the way that I tell veterinarians to and try it out, is just sign up for a free trial with these programs. Are very liberal with their free trials.
Right,
Just have it record a conversation
right,
in the exam room, but don't even just to record it. You still do whatever
Right.
you do. Stop the recording and then just look at the soap note it produced. Like it literally
Yeah.
takes 2 taps.
yeah,
And then see what it looks like. Where I think, to your point, and I agree, and this is where a lot of practices are really burdened, is there's so much technology. It takes a lot of time to slow down to incorporate it into the workflow. But
Mm.
this is a little easier.
It
Definitely
sounds
work.
like not a very steep learning curve then, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
It's super easy. I think that the threshold is super low.
Right.
And there's multiple companies right now that are popping up that really solve problems that you have in your practice. And so some is the scribing part, some are other things that you do.
But there would be the issue of integrating with whatever your
Right.
patient management software
Right,
is, right?
right.
Yeah, and to Yola's point, there are a lot of AI scribes in the veterinary space,
Yeah.
but there are plenty now that integrate.
Right.
So I usually say if you're looking for AI scribes, you want one that integrates.
Of course.
So when you're done with that appointment, it'll start to sync it over. And then you can still make your edits, right?
Yeah.
The thing with AI though is that it's imperfect.
Still have to review.
Exactly, because there's something called faithfulness hallucinations, detections in artificial intelligence, where it will make something up if it doesn't hear it
Right.
clearly. So sometimes it will produce an inaccurate medical record. So you do have to spend a couple of minutes going back.
Mm.
The argument very clear though is that the time that you're editing some of them, because it doesn't happen with all of it, is still
Still less.
far. Exactly. AI companies now, because they're listening into the appointment, you can also ask for a differential diagnosis. Now, the good and the bad with that is, the good is it helps you in diagnosing disease. The bad is that if you're not training your veterinarians and your medical team to challenge how it's coming to its conclusion, instead of letting it come to its conclusion and making medical assumptions there, that becomes problematic, right? Because you're not learning the latest in
Right.
feline medicine.
Where does it get its data from? Like if I ask it to give me a differential diagnosis for whatever, where does that?
So it's taking all of so a lot of the AI scribes train it with veterinary specific information. So kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, your textbook, all of that information, peer reviewed journals, any medical textbooks, anything that's been published and considered to be validated data, But what I do challenge veterinarians and teams to do is if you're asking it to do a differential diagnosis, ask it how it came to that conclusion, because it'll cite Dr. Susan Little's book.
Yeah, yeah.
And it'll cite the very specific
And that
thing.
it could matter.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Because again, faithfulness to illusion, sometimes it'll make something up. And this is really important. You will never see or hear AI say, I don't know.
Okay.
It will always give you an
Okay.
answer, and it always seems
It
to
never
fit.
loses
How you
space.
build it too, because you can also teach them to say, I don't know.
Yeah,
And
and
that
there's
doesn't
some
help.
systems,
Right.
most systems don't. There's a company called Pure Logic. They built an AI platform called Amy. Amy knows what she doesn't know.
Ooh.
Most AI systems don't know what they don't know, and they will make assumptions.
Do you have to ask approval for the owner to use this?
So depending on the province or the country that you're in, or even within the state that you're in here in the US, there are very specific types of permission you may need to receive. Some states here in the US, you don't need any written
Right.
consent, you just need posted consent.
Okay.
Some you need actual written consent. So I usually recommend, because they do this in human medicine, when you check in for your appointment online,
Right.
those terms and conditions that you don't read,
Mhm.
that's where they're
It's in
getting
there.
permission for them to record the appointment for their scribes. Veterinarians don't use terms and conditions, so usually I recommend for like an online check-in form,
Right.
having something that says we'll be recording the appointment, we're storing this information. It allows us to do X, Y, Z.
And that's so,
That's a good
so
question.
that is so silly because
Mm.
in the US, when you do a telephone call,
Mm,
you are liable in a lot of states when
Yeah.
you don't tell them that you record it.
mhm.
But you're not liable when you have a scribe doing it.
No, you can be in some states. But there's a great website, and I'll give it to the both of you
Right,
to link
right,
up,
right.
where it's unfortunately doesn't work in Canada, but in the US you can, and I'm sure there's a Canadian version, but it'll show you which state you're in
Right.
and what type of consent you need to receive.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're right, you
Yeah.
will get in, and you can get into trouble if you're recording.
I know where I practice, it's one party consent.
Okay,
There's not a lot of rules and regulations.
agreed. It is a wild west.
It is completely the wild.
I think you should let clients know, however.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah,
for
so.
I mean, I think it's unethical not to.
Yeah. We do our management meetings on Zoom.
Mhm.
And so we recently started having Zoom record them because Zoom will produce
Right.
a transcript that is not always that faithful,
Sure,
but it will produce a summary.
it's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Pretty
cool,
accurate.
isn't it?
yeah,
And so I love that, because that's another case use right there.
yeah.
Having
Meetings.
virtual team meetings, or
Yeah.
even having it on Zoom,
Yeah.
recording it.
Yeah.
But to Yola's point too, is you do want to make sure we
Yeah.
get consent from
Oh,
those
yeah.
employees,
Yeah,
and that we
Oh,
don't
yeah.
mention any last names in the
Mhm.
meeting. Like we just say Mr. Smith or Eric or Yola.
Yep.
But absolutely,
Yeah.
I've used it a lot. for
I
that.
don't think anything that you published openly is safe anymore. We knew that already for social media. So
Mhm.
anything that you're on social media is forever there. And we have no idea how they're going to use that in the future.
Well, can I ask a question for both of you, since you're both published? How do you feel about that? You're both published authors. You put a lot of work into your books. Is that a good or a bad thing?
I feel quite strongly about my intellectual property. And I do because in general, in veterinary medicine, if you're a speaker, and you know this, your work product at a conference or a meeting is often used beyond the confines of what you actually did.
Mhm.
And more often than not, you are not compensated for that.
Yeah.
Right? Or you have to fight to be compensated for that. So even without AI, I feel anyway, we've still had, if you're a speaker, we've still had this issue.
Mhm.
So I feel very strongly about my work product because of that.
Yeah, I
And-
understand that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now I would feel the same about AI, but on the other hand, what am I going to do about it? Because it's really up to the publishers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that put digital
Yeah.
editions
My
online.
answer is it's double.
Hmm.
So I have a book that I published openly in open
Mhm.
access. I want
Okay.
everybody to use that. So this is fantastic.
Yeah,
because
so in that, I guess it's good in that.
Yeah, so it
setting.
draws from there. So,
Yeah.
and it's the information that I want to
Yeah.
have
Right.
out, because there's a lot of shit information, excuse
Sure.
me that I said that, out
podcast.
in the,
We'll blurb it out.
and then the other thing is, so that my reconstruction book, no, of course not. The
Right.
good news there is it's a lot of pictures.
Ah.
We're not there yet. It will come though. I mean,
Oh, it's already there though. In human medicine, there was a derm study that said they trained an AI model to go through 126,000 derm images, and
Right.
then it performed at par with 23 board of dermatologists.
That
can
doesn't
see that.
surprise me because it's
Right.
pattern recognition,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So,
And there are so many of those pictures online. If I look for reconstruction pictures,
Mhm.
maybe.
Right.
We are at 25 minutes, so we
Oh my
need to break
goodness.
this off already. It goes really fast, but you'll be back in
Yep.
2 weeks. And we're going to talk about bees.
finally,
The opinions of this podcast are those by Dr. Susan Little and Dr. Jolle Kurpenstein. Veterinary medicine is a complex profession, and often there are multiple diagnostic and therapeutic options for different disease processes. If you're a pet owner with questions, please go to your local veterinarian.